Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. I wanted to go live today because there's a recurring theme that's showing up in the people that I work with that I thought would be helpful to share here. Basically, um, people will get a script from someone who is really good at sales, for example, like a expert guru person. Um, or they will listen or shadow somebody's sales calls and try to imitate them exactly. So they'll follow a script, and even though the script isn't working, they feel like it's them. Like, oh, it's because I'm not implementing it correctly. It's because I'm not sticking to it entirely. Like, this really happens with that Sam Ovens script that's going around. That's like pretty cold and, generic. Um, and then sometimes people are like, oh, well, I listened to the top salesperson who sells this particular offer or product, and then they try to sound exactly like them. So people are different. Whatever works for somebody does not work for you because you have a different personality. And then when somebody like a guru or expert has a script, it doesn't work the same because you probably sell a different service or product and your audience is probably different. So the reason that Sam Ovens, hi Troy, oh awesome, Sheridan Live Event Marketers, yay! Hi Daniel. So the reason that God, what was I gonna say? You distracted me because I got all excited. People implemented it. Oh yeah, a different audience as well. So Sam Ovens is selling to a certain type of audience of, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and that's why, and he also obviously has some type of personality that works well with that really cold script and really challenging script. So most people don't feel comfortable doing that on a call. It's uncomfortable for the person selling it, and it's uncomfortable for the person on the receiving end of it. So if you feel uncomfortable doing something, it's not going to sell. If you're imitating someone else, but it feels weird because it's not you, it's not going to sell. So, for example, one of the sales teams that I manage, there is a guy on the team who does a great job of having like so much conviction and authority and pretty much like, why aren't you going to do this, dumbass? Like you're a dumbass. And it works really, really well. So whenever we look at his calls and I talk to the rest of the sales team about him, I point out the things he's saying that are really effective, like the way he's saying them, or a certain line, like, hey, I understand that, you know, people don't like being sold to, but they like to buy. And that's why I approach the call a certain way or something. Like that's a great line for this particular audience. But I always make sure to tell them, don't feel like you need to say everything he says just because he closes a lot. And don't feel like you're not like you need to sound like this authoritative person if that's not you. Because if you try to act like you're not you, it's not going to come off well. So another person on one of my other teams, he is a great guy, like super likable, very comfortable with people. And then on calls, he puts on this like salesperson persona that's like very serious and kind of cold. And so it doesn't come off well. He would sell so much more if he just relaxed and acted like himself, like he was helping somebody, like finding out somebody's problem, genuinely trying to understand it, and then helping them with it. So when you come from a genuinely helpful place and a genuinely curious place, like when you're on a call, you're not just trying to sell someone or remember what someone else said to say to sell or read what someone else said to say to sell or whatever. And when you're just focusing on the other person and how you can genuinely help them, you will naturally ask the right questions because it's impossible to script every potential question that you should ask. There has to be some sort of customization to it. As far as like, based on their answer, that made me then ask this question so that I dug deeper. So that is lost a lot whenever you are trying to imitate someone or trying to follow script, because then you don't have all the information you need. So I tried to compare it to like being in a grocery store, and there's somebody there who's like, I'm really looking for some pita bread, and it's like, oh, well, what kind of pita bread do you like? Are you on a diet? Like, what are you eating it with? And then making a recommendation from there. And oh, you're trying to watch your weight. Okay, well, this wheat one I had is really good. And she acts all weird about it. And instead of just glossing over it, you're like, oh, you seem like you feel weird about that. And they say, yeah, well, I had the wheat one and it really didn't taste good. So because you're being naturally curious and digging in, you can provide a better solution, basically. And that's what you need to do on the sales call, is just put out of your mind that you're selling something, or that you're trying to imitate someone, or that you're trying to follow a script, and instead just try to understand what the person's actually going through. What's their problem? What they've tried? Why it hasn't worked up to this point? And you'll naturally ask the right questions when that's your only motive. And you'll naturally say the right things when your only motive is explaining or discovering how the solution you offer fits their situation to solve it. The less you try to sell, the more that you'll sell. The less you imitate someone and be yourself, the more you will sell. So I know that sounds super counterintuitive. And of course, there are ways, yeah, Antoine, they don't build the relationship between you and the prospect. They can feel the lack of connection. So scripts are a great framework, but the lack of customization makes the person feel like this is what you tell everyone about. Like you're not using the information I'm telling you to help me at all. So, for example, with the grocery conversation, for example, if she's just like, oh, I'm looking for pita bread, and he's like, oh, well, this is the best pita bread ever in the world. It's fantastic, and it's wheat, so it helps you lose weight. And she like looks all weird about it. And instead of asking why, it's just like continue selling, well, no, it's the best because blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, okay, this person isn't hearing me, is what it feels like when you just keep selling instead of like trying to understand, basically. So imitating, like, go with your natural intuition. Notice when people are sounding weird or acting silent or giving weird faces if you're on a Zoom call, and dig into that. And that's going to benefit you so much more than imitating somebody. You have more natural intuition than you realize. You are selling all the time, whether it's to your kids or your partner or your family or your friends or someone random that you just saw a good movie and want to tell them all about it. You're selling it. The only reason you think you don't have the same intuition is because you're having a conversation where a money exchange happens. And there are lots of things that, I can provide, obviously, that help you feel more comfortable with that conversation. And there are certain ways to communicate things that will be more persuasive, like ways of saying them. But honestly, if you just focus on understanding the other person and whether your solution is actually a fit to solve their problem, you're going to naturally say and do things more right than if you imitate someone or follow a script. So I would start there, and then you can layer on the customization of other things later. So just get out of your head, stop thinking about how you need to sell the person or what you would say to sell them or how you can use what they just said to sell them. And instead, just think about it will click for you when they say the thing that relates to your product or service. And this is not to oversimplify it. It's just that people are often overcomplicating it, and it's hard to unlearn those things and then layer on the right things. So instead, start from this place. You'll sell so much more. And then you can start laying on the other things if you even need to. So anyway, I hope that's helpful and that everybody has an amazing week. And I'll talk to you later.